Hey YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to be showing why maybe you should consider using QGIS and Cloud Compare for your Trimble Business Center workflows. Now I'm starting to do this workflow more and more because Civil 3D for me on the record drafting is becoming less and less reliable as US survey feet and international feet become more and more of an issue. And so I like to be able to assign my coordinate system, bring my project to ground, know that it's at ground and stays at ground and is doing transformations correctly. In Civil 3D, I just haven't had that luck. And so what I can do is assign my projection in Trimble Business Center and then bring this to QGIS. So 6617 is the projection that I need for setting up QGIS. QGIS is also awesome because it comes with a bunch of loaded plugins that you can just install, like base maps that you can install, and once it's installed you can add in your favorite Google, Esri, whatever layers. In this case, I have some high resolution data available from my county, which is also compatible with QGIS. If you've never figured out how to get data from a parcel viewer, you can right click and inspect, then go to sources and scroll out until you start to see a bin. The bin is where all of your images will be kept for, say for example, this one is a WMS, and so if you right click and copy the link address, you can quickly add your county data to this map or to this QGIS project by pasting the URL and giving it a name. And after you do that, then you can connect and you can add in the imagery that they offer, and you can also add in the vectors. So if they add ownership, you can add in the ownership information. And after that's done, you can zoom into your project area, and just like that you have kind of a mirror copy of your county's data. You can also do that with ArcGIS. So if you go onto the ArcGIS online, browse for layers, and then get their description or their detail, then you can add this from their source. Another great stop that I make is the National Map Downloader V2, and the reason why I do this is for their elevation data sets that's done from LiDAR. I like using these as a base map for my field searches because in Wyoming, water resources are a huge deal, and so I can quickly open up Cloud Compare, download these files in the LAS, figure out what projection they're in, and then run some quick little rasterization to produce some density and hill shades. So if you add them in, if you've never done it, just quickly add them into Cloud Compare. Then select all the point clouds, merge them, and then we'll go in and rasterize them. So I'm going to be using a 1 meter resolution, which is not the best, but it's going to work for what I need. I'm not going to be interpolating anything because I'm just interested in this density and the height for my hillshade. So on this, you'll call it your density raw map. Once it's output, you can open up QGIS and simply drag and drop your raw density and then assign it the correct EPSG. Speaking of, we can assign our correct EPSG from here, which was 6617 from the search. Apply, and now if you wanted to, you could add in your parcel fabric. I recommend the CAD NSDI from the BLM. It's a national data set. If you have a state like mine that also maintains a local version, then that's a great resource to have for your parcel fabric and just a rough search coordinate for going to the field with. These are updated quarterly, and I find them to be decent when you're out in the field. Just a great starting search calc. It's not going to get you right on the cap, but it might get you within 30 feet of that most of the time. You can add your CAD NSDI with a add vector, and then choose this open file geodatabase, and once you extract the zip file that you download, then you can just add in your sections, townships, and quarters. So these will be really useful because you can output these into just by doing quick selections. So you select the layer, do a drag window, and if you can't see what you're doing, you can just turn them off, then select the area that you want, and then right click and export the selected features and make sure that you go out to your project coordinate system. Once you have downloaded or selected and exported these two shapefiles, I do the township section and then the quarter corner. These are compatible and in the same EPSG as Trimble Business Center. Highly recommend doing this for search, just to have an idea of where the quarters are. And once you do that, you can symbolize the rest of these images. I'm going to be using this density with the white to black, and I like to do a little bit of resampling here so that I get a better view. But you might have to play with this depending on the density and resolution of your LiDAR. So then I'll duplicate this layer and create a hillshade with the band 1, which hosts the elevations, and get rid of my gamma stretch. And then now I have a base map that kind of gives me a feel for the terrain that I'm going to be up against, and some of these water ditches and swales that I need to probably focus on while I'm out doing the topo. Now, to get this into TBC, it is pretty straightforward process. Just check to make sure that you're still in the EPSG that you want to be. And if you're not, just go ahead and apply that before you create this layout. After you create it, then right click, hit your page properties, and do at least an ANSI C, add a map to it, and then change this to a real world scale and make sure that it is placed correctly and where you want it. And in your main map, you can check on or check off the layers that you want. I want the ownership to be displayed, and so I'm going to leave that on. I'm going to export the image, and we'll call it the default for the first one, and 300 DPI. Make sure to generate the world file. That's what makes TBC recognize it. After it finishes, you can minimize and then do the next ones that you need. So for mine, I want the hillshade, so I'll just go back into my layout, refresh, and then export the image. Rinse, wash, and repeat for the density map. which will show me where all of my fences and edges of buildings, where the density of vertical structures will increase. All that's left is to get these into Trimble Business Center. We'll open Trimble Business Center back up and open up our folder. Select all of our images that we want to put in here. Now we can go into our View Manager, scroll down, and we'll see our georeferenced images at the bottom. So now we have a way to see our planning data sets, and these planning data sets can be exported just by selecting, and then we'll go to Export CAD, and we can do an ortho image, or you can just copy these TIFF files and put them into your TSC7 project folder. Next, we can add in our quarters. And if you've never done a shapefile in Trimble Business Center, you want to keep your project system and transform to grid. And then you can select the imported file. You might have to check these on and check them off in your layers over here to make sure that you only select your quarters. Then scroll down to the bottom and you can set your transparency to 100 if you are just caring about the boundaries like I am. And in this case, I'm going to start some drafting based on my record plat map here. Right here is the project basis. So I'm going to put a point there, and this is going to become so I'll just create my point there, assign an elevation, and this is just a raw arbitrary value that I'm going to also use to bring this project to ground so that my images and line work will be ground based. Next, it's important to switch your azimuth, which is in your units, to a bearing azimuth. So we can do some drafting by bearing and distance. So we'll go to our polyline, and you can create a new layer and call it whatever you need to call it for your record drafting. This is just an example, so I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on it. Right click to get into your bearing, and then enter in the bearing from here, which is 3438. So it is north 0, 34 minutes, 38 seconds, and then west, and you don't have to put the designations because it'll add them. And then add in your distance, 660.08. And hit OK, and now you can see how easy and fast you can draft up some record maps for your subdivision for searching, and then output these to DXFs. And once you have all of your line work done, one of the things I like to do is add some points for my field crews, so then they can search while they're out there, and then also just give them an idea using the snaps here of where they should be looking. So in this case, I need to give them an idea here on these endpoints. Now I just add quick information like a kind of monument that they should be expecting to find, and add that to points. I like to prep these into a DXF, so I'll select all of my line work and points, and I'll go home, export, CAD, DXF, And then I do the same thing for a JXL with all of my points and grid and global and export.